How's it going, guys? Today I want to tell you something that you might not like because a lot of people don't like hearing this, but I believe that everyone that is learning English should hear this to make your process easier. So let's talk a little bit about rules and grammar because when we are kids, I think it's much easier to learn using exclusively the natural approach method. So you have language exposure, you pay attention to what people are doing when they say things, and you start learning. That's how kids learn, right? However, when we are older, I feel like we need a little bit more before we start using the natural approach method. Because if you've never studied English before, and then suddenly you're trying to learn a new language by language exposure, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's going to take a little bit longer because at the beginning you won't understand anything. So I feel like we do need that base, the basics, really basics, like I'm talking about simple present, simple past, basic rules, so that we have an idea about how to structure sentences. And then, of course, when we have that language exposure, it becomes easier because you need language exposure. You really need it. If you're learning not just English, but if you are learning a new language, you need language exposure. Period. That's it. So a problem that I see that it's a mistake that a lot of people do is obsessing over the rules. So let's say that you feel like you need to go back. No shame here, but you need to go back and review some basics. Oh, I don't remember exactly how to use auxiliary verbs, for example. So I need to remember exactly how I should use did, for example. Awesome, go back and review it. I think it's important. And I mean, there are so many ways to do it nowadays. If you search online, you're going to find maybe 1 million different videos about it. But the one mistake that a lot of people do is after they first learn it or when they go back to review it, they tend to obsess and question, why should I use it here? So why do I have to add this did or do or does to create a sentence, a question more specifically, right? So did you go to school this morning? Did you go to school? Why do I have to add that did right at the beginning? Well, because you must, because it's the rule. So because you need it, you need that auxiliary verb so that the sentence makes sense in this case, so that the question makes sense. And the problem is that a lot of us, it's not just one person, but a lot of us, we do it. We want to take everything that we know from our own language and we project it. It doesn't matter what's the other language that we are learning, not just when we're talking about English, but we want to structure everything, we want to say things in the exact same way that we would say it in Portuguese. And that's the problem, because we have to remember that every language is structured in its own way. So the rules are different, and that's it. I think it's important to remember the rules, to understand why you have to use it, and because you need to remember, it's not a suggestion. It's not a suggestion in the way that I'm saying you should use auxiliary verbs. You must use them. You must. You have to. It's not a suggestion. You have to use them. And some people, they obsess over it. They want to understand why. Why is the order different? Because in Portuguese, we would place the words in a different order. Well, because it is what it is. And if you obsess over it, oh my goodness, it's going to take so much longer. So much longer for you to actually start practicing. So if you do this, if you are one of those people, I'm sorry, but I am telling you that you have to stop it. If you want to understand a rule, awesome, go for it. But don't obsess over it. You know, don't try to overanalyze it and don't do it. Just don't do it. Understand the rule, cool, focus on language exposure after that. Because the more examples you see and you hear, things will become clear. And unless your focus, you know, your entire I don't even know exactly what I want to say here, but maybe if your specific focus is just learning grammar, you know, that's it. That's the only thing you want to do, or maybe you have this massive focus on linguistics, that's okay. Then I'm not talking to you. But if you are here, I imagine, if you are watching a video like this, it is because you want to improve your English. You want to hear some tips, you want to know things that you could do better, and also things that could help you throughout this process. So this is one of those things. I really believe it. I used to focus a lot on translating every single word and obsessing over rules. And this kind of thing doesn't really help you to become fluent. It just helps you obsess over something. So if this is your case, if you've been over-analyzing every single rule, don't do it. Really. Listen to me, don't do it. Try to do something different. Try to understand the rule and move on. Hear examples, see examples, watch, read. I don't know what kind of language exposure you prefer, but really, I think that after you've gone through the basics and you really want to feel like you are improving, you have to focus on language exposure.